Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about a review and meta-analysis that came out recently. I saw it come through my social media and I went ahead and read it. I'll probably link it down in the comments for you guys. And it has to do with bone mineral density and fracture rates in vegans and vegetarians versus omnivores. So let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And this is the stuff that we have to think about. We have to be aware of when it comes to these different diets and different lifestyle choices that people make, that oftentimes diets that are exclusionary aren't as perfect as people make them out to be. And I'm sorry, but every one of these people who have different diets, and look, I'm not going to knock people's ethical choices. If you feel that a meat-free diet is what you personally have to do to be a good person, right? If you have a moral imperative towards that, then do what you have to do. But you need to be aware that there are failings in your diet. And there's nothing more annoying than people who follow these more extreme diets. And I know the vegans are going to jump in and say, well, your diet's extreme. You chop up the bodies of animals and eat them as food. That's extreme. You're a murderer. Okay, fine. I get that. Okay, I get that. In fact, I have practiced in veganism before. I have been a vegan. I've done keto diets. I've done all these things over the years. I understand where you're coming from. I don't accept it. The point is, you need to be aware that your diet's not perfect. And when you have vegans who say stuff like, well, there's no requirement to eat meat, you sound just as absurd as the keto tards who say there's no requirement for dietary carbohydrates. Well, that's fine, but best of luck being a competitive athlete at the top of your sport without carbs. Best of luck being at peak performance as an athlete with no carbs in your diet. I wish you luck with that. Have fun. Knock yourself out on your 80% fat diet trying to, win strength sports or any sport that involves speed and power. Good luck. Which is what I'm all about here. So, it's what I would tell those people. Well, the same thing when it comes to vegans and vegetarians. You have your biases, okay? I understand that. That's fine. That's fair. But you also need to keep in mind there have been major vegan speakers, and I'm saying this as someone who has dabbled in veganism. I did spend 6 months of my life as an adult as a vegan. I gave it an honest go. It's not for me, and I will never do it again. That's reality of it. So the whole point is, I've heard vegan speakers say flat out that the ethical imperative towards veganism is so important that they would lie about health benefits in order to serve the greater good. That in that case, the lie would be justified, right? That in their opinion, the lie would be justified because of the greater good that it would serve. So if you could even lie and convince people that the diet was healthier than it really is, just to help with the animal cruelty, that it would be worth it. That lie would be justified. And they equated it to, people lying during the Holocaust to save Jews from the Nazis would have been an acceptable form of lie. That they equated it to that. So you need to understand that if you are a vegan and you've chosen this lifestyle, you need to understand that the mentality of many of the speakers who put out information on this is very much what I described, and they may very well lie to you and exclude this data and ignore this data because they believe the greater good is served. And you need to understand that, because it's fine. You've chosen this lifestyle. If you've chosen to be a vegan for health purposes, if that's your reason for doing it, I'm sorry, you're not very intelligent. If you've done it because you feel a moral imperative towards it, because I'm going to go back to the other point. Omnivores live just as long and healthy a life as vegans do. There's no evidence whatsoever that being a vegan is actually superior. All right, and you guys need to cut that bullshit out, because it's not health. From a health perspective, it's not superior. It is absolutely not. In that stupid shit. You want to claim that it's ethically superior because of your moral beliefs, that's fine. You need to end this other bullshit. Because this is the sort of nonsense that happens, exactly like what we see in these reviews. Stick with the morality, because that's the only ground you have to stand on. And I'm not saying a vegan diet can't be healthy, but when you look at the data like this, what do we have? They found that vegans and vegetarians had lower bone mineral density than omnivores. In other words, the general population. You see the problem there? How many vegan experts over the years have claimed that animal protein leaches calcium from your bones, right? They've made this whole spiel about it. It's not the case, is it? It's not the case at all. In fact, over the years, there's been data showing that increasing your intake of animal protein seems to actually help with osteoporosis. It seems to be protective against osteoporosis and osteoarthritis and things like that. All right, that flies in the face of that claim that a lot of vegans make. Because here we have it right here. Omnivores have better bone mineral density. And of course, you guys remember on my DEXA scan, my bone mineral density was 4th standard deviation on the chart. Mine is like almost off the scale. But again, a lot of that has to do with all the years and years and years of heavy powerlifting played a role. But why would we have this benefit? It has to do with the IGF-1 and everything, carrying more muscle mass. All right, you're carrying more muscle mass. The protein, the animal proteins produce more muscle growth even in sedentary populations. That's protective against osteoporosis in and of itself. Same thing when you're strength training. You gain more muscle mass. You're going to have better bone density because you're going to get stronger faster. It's real simple. Animal proteins are superior for this. Hands down. And vegans can argue to the contrary all they want. They can get a few outliers. Well, this person has gained all this muscle on a vegan diet. And you look at him and the dude is pumped full of juice. It's like, well, he wouldn't have gained all that muscle on that vegan diet without, number one, finding ways to protein load large amounts of protein somehow through vegan sources, along with all the drugs he's using to boost his muscle protein synthesis. You try doing what he did as a totally natural vegan, and best of luck to you. You're not going to get the same results. Sorry, that's not how it works. It's not how it works here in the real world. But we come back to the other point. You've got to look at this data. You see that. And then the other thing, fracture rates. Vegans had higher fracture rates than both omnivores and vegetarians. Why? Animal protein, calcium. All right, this is real simple. We don't even need to dig into too much further data for that. It should be blaringly obvious. Where do you get your calcium? You know, that's what the vegans always get asked, and they say, well, I can get it from this and that. It's like, well, look at your fracture rates. And I guess the point of this is that if people are going to choose to follow these sort of diets, because they will, I mean, if you feel a moral imperative to follow this form of diet, you're going to follow it. You need to be aware of the limitations. And if you are not willing to admit the health and physical and athletic limitations of the diet you've chosen for ethical purposes, you're screwing yourself over. And essentially, if a person hears this and they're not willing to look at this data and they put their fingers in their ears, they're a moron and they deserve what happens to them. It's very simple. If you refuse to look at this data and say, okay, there's no problems at all, my vegan diet is perfect the way it is, I don't need to address any aspect of it, then you deserve what's going to happen. You deserve those bone fractures. Just like the smoker who starts smoking cigarettes and ignores the data about the lung cancer, they kind of deserve that. And I'm not trying to be a dick, I'm just being honest. So if you're a vegan or a vegetarian and you're looking at this data, you probably need to take it into account and say, you know what? I'm a vegan. I'm looking at this bone mineral density. I'm looking at these fracture rates. I probably need to find a way to get more protein in my diet. Even if it's what I see as a vegan protein, that's fine. I probably need a calcium and a vitamin D supplement. All right, you need to look at that. You need to look at these fracture rates and don't be a stupid dumbass who ignores the science because of your vegan propaganda. You need to say, okay, I've chosen this diet for ethical reasons, but there are health problems. I probably need to be supplementing vitamin D and calcium. And if you look at this data and you don't realize that this is a problem, I don't have any pity for you at all. I have no sympathy because it's right there. The data is showing you there's a problem with the vegan diet in regards to bone mineral density and fracture rates. If you are not willing to address that, and that's fine. If you choose to stay on the diet, that's fine, but you need to address these deficiencies. And again, I'm going to state, if you choose to follow this diet and you ignore the peer-reviewed data, the meta-analysis on this, and you refuse to do something about it, you deserve the end result. Just like the smoker deserves the end result of the cigarettes, and just like the person who's eating a half ounce of bacon every day until they're 60 years old doesn't look at the data on eating excessive amounts of processed red meat with all the nitrates and everything loaded into it, they kind of deserve what's going to happen to them too. Is that a fair statement? Even the vegans always say that. Well, you better look at your own diet and use the same logic. If you're not willing to address it, you deserve what's going to happen to you. And you shouldn't get any sympathy for it. And you need to quit spreading your dumbassery that this diet is perfect and that just a normal plain vegan diet will provide all the protein you need for muscle mass. It will provide all the calcium and vitamin D3 that you need for strong bones, because it clearly doesn't. And if you're not willing to address that, then essentially you're not someone that I have any sympathy for. Enjoy your life. Have fun. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.